The locker room at Iron Core Fitness Center fell silent as Emma Rodriguez slowly peeled off her sweat-soaked, long-sleeve athletic shirt. The fluorescent lights overhead cast harsh shadows across her back, illuminating a roadmap of surgical scars that told a story she'd spent 3 years trying to forget. What started as casual post-workout chatter among the women quickly transformed into stunned whispers as they caught sight of the intricate pattern of healed wounds that decorated her torso like a testament to survival. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. Oh my God! Breathed Jessica Williams, a marketing executive who'd never seen anything more traumatic than a paper cut. Her voice carried across the tiled space, drawing the attention of every woman present. What happened to you? Emma's hands paused mid-motion as she reached for her civilian clothes, feeling the weight of 24 pairs of eyes studying the evidence of that October morning in Kandahar Province, when her convoy hit an improvised explosive device. The shrapnel patterns were still visible 3 years later, creating a constellation of scars that emergency room doctors had meticulously reconstructed during 17 hours of surgery. Tyler Mitchell, the gym's head trainer and self-appointed social media influencer, appeared in the doorway holding his phone. He'd been filming content for his Instagram story when he noticed the unusual quiet from the women's section. His expression shifted from curiosity to something approaching disgust as he processed what he was seeing. "Jesus Christ," he muttered, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Maybe next time warn people before you strip down like that. Some of us are trying to maintain a positive environment here." Emma Rodriguez had always believed that civilian life would be simpler than military service. After completing her final deployment as an Army combat medic in Afghanistan, she'd imagined a quiet transition into a peaceful existence, where the most stressful decision would be choosing between oatmeal or eggs for breakfast. The reality of veteran life had proven far more complicated than her optimistic projections. At 32, Emma possessed the kind of unassuming presence that allowed her to blend seamlessly into crowds. Standing 5 feet 6 inches with dark hair typically pulled into a practical ponytail, she carried herself with the subtle confidence of someone who'd learned to assess threats and opportunities in split-second decisions. Her civilian wardrobe consisted entirely of long-sleeved shirts and full-coverage athletic wear, a deliberate choice that concealed the extensive scarring across her back, shoulders, and arms. The apartment she rented in Tempe reflected her minimalist approach to post-military life. Clean lines, functional furniture, and an absence of personal decorations created a space that felt more like temporary housing than a permanent home. The only indication of her military background was a small wooden box tucked into the back corner of her bedroom closet, containing her service medals, discharge papers, and the folded flag that had covered her convoy commander's casket. 3 years had passed since the explosion that changed the trajectory of her life forever. October 13, 2021 remained etched in her memory with photographic precision. Their convoy had been returning from a medical assistance mission to a remote village when the road beneath their Humvee erupted in a ball of fire and twisted metal. Emma's training as a combat medic kicked in immediately, even as she felt the warm wetness of her own blood soaking through her uniform. She'd managed to stabilize 2 wounded soldiers and call for medical evacuation before losing consciousness from her own injuries. The months of recovery that followed had been a blur of surgical procedures, physical therapy, and psychological counseling. Military doctors had worked miracles reconstructing the damaged tissue, but the scars remained as permanent reminders of that morning. More challenging than the physical healing was the psychological adjustment to civilian life, where people stared at visible injuries with curiosity rather than understanding. Emma's decision to pursue physical therapy as a civilian career felt like a natural extension of her military medical training. The Desert Valley Physical Rehabilitation Clinic specialized in treating veterans and first responders, providing a comfortable environment where her background was understood and respected. Her colleagues appreciated her intuitive understanding of trauma recovery and her gentle approach with patients struggling to regain mobility and independence. Working with fellow veterans allowed Emma to maintain a connection to military culture while building something meaningful in civilian society. She understood the unique challenges faced by service members transitioning to everyday life because she lived those challenges herself. Her patients trusted her because she'd walked similar paths, faced comparable obstacles, and emerged stronger on the other side. The decision to join Iron Core Fitness Center had been motivated by practical considerations rather than social aspirations. Emma needed a place to maintain the physical conditioning that had been central to her identity for over a decade. Military fitness standards had instilled habits that civilian life couldn't easily replace, and she found comfort in the familiar rhythm of structured workouts and measurable progress. Iron Core occupied a prominent location in Scottsdale's entertainment district, featuring floor-to-ceiling windows that showcased the facility's modern equipment and attractive clientele to passing pedestrians. The gym marketed itself as a premium fitness destination for young professionals, emphasizing both physical transformation and social networking opportunities. Their Instagram account boasted over 50,000 followers, regularly featuring before and after photos and testimonials from satisfied members. Emma's first impression of the facility had been positive. The equipment was well maintained, the hours accommodated her work schedule, and the monthly membership fee fell within her budget. She'd completed the initial paperwork without incident, providing basic contact information and emergency contacts without mentioning her military background or medical history. Tyler Mitchell had introduced himself during Emma's orientation session, presenting himself as the facility's lead trainer and social media coordinator. At 28, he possessed the kind of sculpted physique that photographed well for promotional materials, with perfectly groomed facial hair and an extensive collection of athletic wear featuring his personal brand logo. His Instagram account documented every aspect of his fitness journey, from pre-workout supplements to post-exercise protein shakes. Tyler's approach to fitness emphasized visual results over functional strength, prioritizing movements that looked impressive on camera rather than practical applications. His training philosophy catered to clients seeking dramatic physical transformations for social media documentation, promising rapid changes that would generate likes and comments across various platforms. During Emma's first month at Iron Core, she'd maintained a low profile, arriving early for less crowded sessions, and focusing on her personal workout routine without seeking attention or social interaction. Her approach to fitness differed significantly from the typical member's goals, emphasizing functional movements that maintained military readiness rather than aesthetic improvements for social media. Emma's workout clothing choices reflected both practical needs and personal comfort levels. Long-sleeved, moisture-wicking shirts provided coverage for her scars while allowing freedom of movement during exercise. Her gear was functional rather than fashionable, consisting of well-worn items that prioritized performance over appearance. The first signs of trouble emerged during Emma's third week at the facility. Tyler had approached her during a particularly intense workout session, offering unsolicited advice about her form and suggesting modifications that would create, quote, better visual impact for potential social media content. His assumption that she was exercising for aesthetic rather than functional purposes revealed a fundamental misunderstanding of her motivations. Emma had politely declined his suggestions, explaining that her routine was designed for specific purposes that didn't align with his recommendations. Tyler's response had been dismissive, suggesting that her military-style approach to fitness was outdated and ineffective for modern goals. The conversation had ended awkwardly, with Tyler walking away while muttering comments about old-school thinking and resistance to improvement. The incident established a pattern of subtle antagonism that would escalate over the following weeks. Tyler began making pointed comments about Emma's workout choices during busy periods when other members could overhear his observations. His critiques focused on her preference for functional movements over isolation exercises, her choice of practical clothing over trendy athletic wear, and her apparent disinterest in documenting her fitness journey through social media. Other gym members began to notice Tyler's treatment of Emma, though their responses varied considerably. Some seemed uncomfortable with his behavior, but remained silent to avoid becoming targets themselves. Others appeared to enjoy the entertainment value of watching someone challenge the established social hierarchy within the facility. Jessica Williams had been among the few members who'd attempted to befriend Emma during those early weeks. A marketing executive for a local tech company, Jessica embodied the gym's target demographic perfectly. She was young, successful, and actively engaged in Phoenix's social scene, with an Instagram account that documented her professional achievements and personal adventures. Jessica's initial approach had been genuinely friendly, inviting Emma to join group fitness classes and suggesting they grab coffee after workouts. Emma appreciated the gesture, but had difficulty connecting with someone whose life experiences were so different from her own. Jessica's biggest challenges seemed to involve choosing between multiple career opportunities and deciding which restaurants to review for her food blog. The cultural gap between Emma's military background and Jessica's civilian lifestyle created natural barriers to friendship, though both women made sincere efforts to find common ground. Jessica was curious about Emma's reserved nature and disciplined approach to fitness, while Emma found Jessica's optimism and social confidence refreshing after years of military culture. As Emma's second month at Iron Corps progressed, Tyler's behavior became increasingly problematic. He began scheduling his own workouts to coincide with Emma's sessions, positioning himself where he could offer commentary on her exercises, while other members could observe the interactions.
Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story.
His suggestions grew more condescending, often delivered in a tone that suggested he was doing her a favor by sharing his expertise. The dynamic reached a turning point during a particularly crowded evening session, when Tyler decided to demonstrate what he considered proper form for Emma's deadlift technique. His approach involved positioning himself uncomfortably close while making loud observations about her amateur mistakes that drew attention from across the facility. Emma's response had been measured but firm, thanking Tyler for his interest while making it clear that she preferred to train independently. Her polite but definitive rejection of his assistance appeared to wound Tyler's ego, particularly given the public nature of the exchange and the presence of several female members who witnessed Emma standing her ground. From Tyler's perspective, Emma's resistance to his guidance represented a challenge to his authority within the facility. As the head trainer and social media coordinator, he was accustomed to members seeking his approval and following his recommendations. Emma's independent approach threatened the dynamic he'd worked to establish, where his expertise was rarely questioned, and his suggestions were typically embraced with gratitude. The situation was further complicated by Emma's obvious competence in areas where Tyler considered himself the resident expert. Her form was technically superior to most members, her understanding of exercise physiology was clearly advanced, and her discipline exceeded that of anyone else in the facility. These observations created cognitive dissonance for Tyler, who struggled to reconcile Emma's abilities with his assumptions about her background and qualifications. Marcus Chen, the gym's owner, remained largely unaware of the developing tension between his head trainer and one of his newer members. Marcus had purchased Iron Corps 3 years earlier as an investment property, drawn by the facility's profitable membership model and growth potential in Scottsdale's affluent market. His involvement in day-to-day operations was minimal, limited to reviewing financial reports and approving major equipment purchases. Marcus's business philosophy emphasized customer satisfaction and member retention, but his understanding of these concepts was filtered through financial metrics rather than personal interactions. As long as membership numbers continued growing and monthly revenues met projections, he assumed the facility was operating successfully. Tyler's social media efforts had contributed significantly to the gym's visibility and new member acquisition, making him a valuable employee from Marcus's perspective. The owner's distance from operational details created an environment where Tyler's behavior could escalate without immediate consequences. Members who might have complained about his conduct had no clear avenue for addressing their concerns, and Tyler's position as both head trainer and social media coordinator gave him considerable influence over the facility's culture and reputation. Emma's professional life at Desert Valley Physical Rehabilitation Clinic provided a stark contrast to her experiences at Iron Corps. Her colleagues understood and respected her military background, recognizing the unique perspective she brought to veteran rehabilitation. Patients responded positively to her approach, which combined technical expertise with genuine empathy for their struggles. The clinic's environment allowed Emma to utilize skills developed during her military service, while helping others navigate their own recovery journeys. Working with veterans dealing with traumatic injuries gave her a sense of purpose that had been missing since her discharge from active duty. These professional relationships provided emotional fulfillment that compensated for the social challenges she faced in civilian settings. Dr. Sarah Martinez, the clinic's director, had specifically recruited Emma because of her military medical experience and natural ability to connect with veteran patients. The combination of her combat medic training and personal understanding of trauma recovery made her uniquely qualified to work with service members transitioning back to civilian life. Emma's patient load included active duty personnel recovering from training injuries, recently discharged veterans adapting to physical limitations, and longtime civilians dealing with service-related conditions that had developed over time. Each case required a different approach, but all benefited from Emma's ability to understand the military mindset and translate medical concepts into familiar terminology. The work was emotionally demanding but professionally rewarding, providing Emma with a sense of mission that connected her current life to her military service. Helping fellow veterans regain independence and mobility felt like a continuation of her combat medic duties, adapted to civilian applications but maintaining the same fundamental commitment to service. Outside of work in the gym, Emma's social life remained limited by choice rather than circumstance. She valued solitude and found comfort in quiet activities that didn't require extensive social interaction. Reading, hiking in the desert surrounding Phoenix, and maintaining her small apartment provided sufficient stimulation without the complexity of navigating civilian social dynamics. Emma's approach to post-military life reflected lessons learned during her recovery process. Military culture had emphasized team cohesion and shared experiences, but civilian society operated according to different rules and expectations. The transition required learning new social codes while maintaining personal authenticity, a balance that proved more challenging than anticipated. The physical reminders of her military service remained constant companions, visible each morning as she dressed for work and each evening as she prepared for sleep. The scars represented both survival and sacrifice, marking moments when training and determination had overcome impossible circumstances. They were sources of pride and pain simultaneously, evidence of strength that came at considerable cost. Emma's relationship with her own appearance had evolved significantly since her injury and recovery. Military culture had emphasized function over aesthetics, valuing physical capabilities over visual appeal. Civilian society's focus on appearance-based judgments felt foreign and often superficial, though she recognized the need to navigate these expectations in professional and social settings. The decision to keep her scars covered stemmed from practical rather than emotional considerations. Visible injuries drew questions and attention that she preferred to avoid, not from shame, but from a desire to control when and how she shared her story. The scars were deeply personal markers of experiences that couldn't be easily explained to people without similar backgrounds. As Emma's third month at Iron Corps began, the pattern of subtle harassment from Tyler had become routine. His comments about her workout choices, clothing, and apparent lack of social media presence occurred regularly enough that other members began to expect and anticipate the interactions. Some found the dynamic entertaining, while others appeared uncomfortable but reluctant to intervene. The situation had created an environment where Emma felt increasingly isolated within the facility, despite her consistent attendance and obvious commitment to her fitness routine. Tyler's behavior had effectively signaled to other members that she was an acceptable target for criticism and exclusion, establishing a social hierarchy that placed her at the bottom, despite her obvious competence. Emma's response to this treatment reflected both her military training and personal values. She continued attending the gym according to her established schedule, maintained her workout routine without modification, and refused to be intimidated by Tyler's increasingly aggressive behavior. Her determination to claim her rightful space within the facility demonstrated the same resilience that had carried her through combat deployments and medical recovery. The stage was set for a confrontation that would reveal truths about courage, sacrifice, and the invisible battles fought by those who'd served their country in ways that civilian society rarely acknowledged or understood. Emma's story was about to intersect with assumptions and prejudices that would challenge everyone involved to reconsider their understanding of strength, service, and the scars that define us all. The systematic campaign against Emma began in ways so subtle that observers might have dismissed them as coincidental misunderstandings. Tyler's influence at Iron Corps extended far beyond his official role as head trainer, encompassing an informal network of members who looked to him for social cues and validation. His disapproval of Emma created ripple effects that transformed the gym's atmosphere from merely unwelcoming to actively hostile. Lisa Parker, the front desk receptionist, had been among the first to align herself with Tyler's perspective. A 24-year-old aspiring fitness influencer, Lisa viewed her position at Iron Corps as a stepping stone to building her own social media brand. Tyler's endorsement could provide access to his extensive network of contacts and collaboration opportunities, making his approval valuable currency in her career development plans. Lisa's treatment of Emma shifted dramatically during the fourth week of her membership. Suddenly, Emma's keycard began malfunctioning with suspicious frequency, requiring lengthy discussions at the front desk that drew unwanted attention. Her locker rental mysteriously expired despite automatic payment arrangements, forcing her to carry her belongings throughout the facility. Class reservations disappeared from the system, leaving Emma without access to sessions she'd specifically planned to attend. Each incident was accompanied by Lisa's exaggerated expressions of concern and promises to investigate the technical difficulties. Her tone carried an undercurrent of condescension that suggested Emma's problems stemmed from her own incompetence rather than systematic sabotage. The performance was subtle enough to maintain plausible deniability while creating genuine frustration and embarrassment. Tyler's inner circle at the gym consisted of approximately 8 regular members who shared his passion for social media documentation and competitive fitness culture. They ranged in age from 25 to 35. Representing various professional backgrounds, but united by their commitment to the lifestyle that Tyler promoted through his online presence. Brad Stevens, a real estate agent specializing in luxury properties, served as Tyler's primary lieutenant in the campaign against Emma. His aggressive personality and imposing physical presence made him an effective intimidator, while his professional success provided social credibility within the group. Brad's approach to harassment favored direct confrontation over subtle manipulation, creating scenarios that forced Emma to respond publicly to unreasonable demands or accusations. During busy evening sessions, Brad would deliberately claim equipment that Emma was actively using, arguing that her rest periods were excessive and that more dedicated members deserved priority access. His complaints were loud enough to draw attention from across the facility, positioning Emma as selfish and inconsiderate, despite her consistently respectful behavior. The equipment sabotage escalated when Brad began adjusting weights and machine settings, while Emma stepped away briefly, creating potentially dangerous situations that could result in injury. His modifications were subtle enough to appear accidental but significant enough to disrupt her workout routine and create safety concerns. Monica Fielding, a social media manager for a local fashion boutique, specialized in psychological warfare designed to undermine Emma's confidence and social standing within the facility. Her attacks focused on appearance-based criticism delivered through seemingly casual observations that highlighted Emma's differences from the typical Iron Corps member. Monica's comments about Emma's workout attire were particularly cutting, delivered with the kind of false concern that made direct confrontation difficult. She would approach Emma in the locker room with observations about the latest athletic wear trends, suggesting that updated clothing choices might help her feel more confident and integrated within the gym community. The implications were clear without being explicitly stated. Emma's functional workout gear marked her as an outsider who didn't understand or care about the social expectations that govern behavior within the facility. Monica's fashion advice was actually social instruction, designed to highlight Emma's failure to conform to established norms. The psychological impact of these interactions was compounded by their public nature and the enthusiastic participation of onlookers who found entertainment value in watching someone struggle to navigate social dynamics they didn't understand. Emma's discomfort became a source of amusement for members who viewed her attempts to maintain dignity as further evidence of her social incompetence. As the harassment campaign intensified, Emma found herself facing obstacles that extended beyond the gym's physical boundaries. Tyler's social media influence provided platforms for public humiliation that reached audiences throughout the Phoenix fitness community. His Instagram stories began featuring subtle mockery of gym tourists and wannabe athletes, who disrupted the authentic training environment with their amateur approaches and inappropriate behavior. While Emma was never mentioned by name or shown directly, the descriptions matched her situation closely enough that regular Iron Corps members could identify the target of Tyler's criticism. His followers responded with encouraging comments that validated his perspective and suggested increasingly aggressive responses to the perceived problem. The online harassment created a feedback loop that reinforced the in-person treatment Emma received at the facility. Members who might have remained neutral found themselves pressured to choose sides, with Tyler's obvious disapproval making neutrality an increasingly uncomfortable position. The social dynamics within Iron Corps began to resemble a high school cafeteria, with clear divisions between those who belonged and those who didn't. Rachel Green, a freelance journalist covering Phoenix's lifestyle and entertainment scene, had been documenting the city's growing fitness culture for a feature article in a local lifestyle magazine. Her research included visits to several prominent gyms and interviews with influential figures in the fitness community, including Tyler Mitchell. Rachel's initial impression of Tyler had been positive, appreciating his articulate discussion of fitness trends and his professional approach to social media marketing. His insights about the evolution of gym culture and the role of technology in modern fitness provided valuable content for her article. However, Rachel's subsequent visits to Iron Corps revealed disturbing patterns of behavior that contradicted Tyler's public persona. She observed multiple instances of targeted harassment directed at members who didn't fit the facility's preferred demographic, with Emma serving as the most visible example of systematic exclusion. Rachel's journalistic instincts recognized a story that extended beyond fitness trends to encompass broader issues of discrimination and workplace harassment. Her investigation revealed that Emma's treatment was part of a larger pattern affecting several members who failed to meet Tyler's standards for social media worthiness or cultural fit. The decision to document these observations proved controversial within Rachel's professional network. Several colleagues advised against pursuing a story that could be perceived as attacking a successful local business, particularly one with significant social media influence and political connections within the fitness industry. Tyler's uncle, Marcus Chen, maintained business relationships with several prominent figures in Phoenix's entertainment and hospitality sectors. These connections provided Iron Corps with promotional opportunities and celebrity endorsements that enhanced the facility's reputation and financial success. Challenging Tyler's behavior risked alienating powerful allies who could impact Rachel's career prospects. Despite these concerns, Rachel continued gathering evidence and conducting background research on the key figures involved in the story. Her investigation revealed Emma's military background and professional qualifications, information that provided crucial context for understanding the harassment she faced at Iron Corps. The contrast between Emma's actual credentials and Tyler's assumptions about her competence highlighted the prejudices and stereotypes that drove the mistreatment. Rachel's research suggested that Emma possessed more relevant experience and technical knowledge than many of the members who criticized her, including Tyler himself. Emma's response to the escalating harassment demonstrated the mental toughness and strategic thinking that had served her well during military service. Rather than confronting her tormentors directly or abandoning the facility, she adopted a patient approach that documented the harassment while maintaining her own professional behavior. Her military training had emphasized the importance of gathering intelligence before taking action, understanding enemy capabilities and motivations before developing response strategies. The same principles applied to civilian conflicts, though the stakes and tactics were different from combat situations. Emma began keeping detailed records of incidents, including dates, times, witnesses, and specific behaviors that created hostile environments or safety concerns. Her documentation was thorough and objective, focusing on observable actions rather than emotional reactions or personal interpretations of motivations. The record-keeping served multiple purposes, providing evidence for potential complaints while helping Emma maintain psychological distance from the harassment. Treating the situation as an intelligence-gathering exercise rather than personal persecution allowed her to remain analytical and strategic rather than emotional and reactive. Emma's professional background in physical therapy provided additional insights into the psychological dynamics driving the harassment campaign. Her work with trauma patients had taught her to recognize patterns of displaced aggression and inadequacy compensation that manifested as bullying behavior. Tyler's need to assert dominance over Emma suggested underlying insecurities about his own qualifications and status within the fitness community. His aggressive response to her competence indicated that her presence threatened his carefully constructed image as the facility's primary expert and authority figure. Understanding these psychological motivations didn't diminish the impact of the harassment, but it provided Emma with frameworks for analyzing and responding to the behavior. Her clinical training helped her maintain objectivity and avoid internalizing the negative messages directed at her. The situation at Iron Core began affecting Emma's professional life when several of her patients mentioned seeing social media content that appeared to reference her experiences at the gym. Tyler's online commentary about amateur athletes and fitness tourists had reached audiences that included some of her veteran clients, creating awkward conversations about her personal life. Dr. Sarah Martinez noticed changes in Emma's demeanor during staff meetings and patient interactions, observing signs of stress that suggested external pressures beyond normal work demands. Her supervisor's concerns led to a private conversation about Emma's well-being and available support resources. Emma's reluctance to discuss the details of her gym experiences reflected both personal privacy preferences and professional discretion. She didn't want her civilian struggles to impact her military veteran clients, who depended on her strength and stability during their own recovery processes. The conversation with Dr. Martinez provided Emma with an opportunity to process her experiences with someone who understood both military culture and civilian workplace dynamics. Her supervisor's perspective helped Emma recognize that the harassment she faced wasn't a reflection of personal inadequacy, but rather a systematic problem that required institutional responses. Dr. Martinez's offer to provide references or documentation supporting Emma's professional qualifications gave her additional options for addressing the situation if formal complaints became necessary. The support from her workplace supervisor provided emotional validation that countered the negative messages she received at Iron Core. As Emma's fifth month at the facility began, the harassment campaign reached new levels of intensity and coordination. Tyler's inner circle had refined their tactics based on Emma's responses to previous incidents, identifying strategies that created maximum disruption while maintaining plausible deniability. The group began timing their gym visits to coincide with Emma's workout schedule, ensuring that she faced systematic interference during every session. Their coordination was subtle but effective, creating an environment where Emma couldn't complete her exercise routine without encountering multiple obstacles and confrontations. Equipment that Emma needed for her workouts was consistently occupied by Tyler's associates, who extended their usage times well beyond reasonable limits, while making pointed comments about sharing and consideration for other members. Their behavior technically violated no specific rules but created situations that forced Emma to either wait indefinitely or modify her planned exercises. The locker room harassment escalated when Monica Fielding began organizing informal social gatherings that deliberately excluded Emma while making her isolation visible to other members. These impromptu conversations occurred in spaces where Emma couldn't avoid overhearing discussions about gym politics and social hierarchies that positioned her as an unwelcome outsider. The psychological impact of systematic exclusion was compounded by the enthusiastic participation of members who weren't part of Tyler's core group but found entertainment value in watching someone struggle with social dynamics. Their laughter and encouraging comments validated the harassment campaign while creating additional pressure on Emma to either conform or leave. Emma's determination to maintain her membership and workout routine despite the hostile environment demonstrated the same resilience that had carried her through military training and combat deployments. Her refusal to be intimidated or driven away from a facility she had every right to use reflected principles of perseverance and dignity that defined her character. The situation was approaching a breaking point that would force all parties to confront the consequences of their choices and reveal the true character of everyone involved. Emma's quiet strength was about to collide with assumptions and prejudices that would challenge the entire Iron Core community to reconsider their understanding of courage, service, and the price of belonging. The breaking point arrived on a sweltering Thursday afternoon in June, when Phoenix temperatures soared past 115 degrees. Emma had chosen to schedule her workout during the typically quieter mid-afternoon hours, hoping to avoid the evening rush that brought Tyler's most vocal supporters to the facility. The air conditioning struggled against the desert heat, creating an oppressive atmosphere that matched the mounting tension between Emma and her tormentors. Emma was midway through her deadlift routine when Tyler approached with his phone already recording, accompanied by Brad Stevens and Monica Fielding. The trio positioned themselves strategically around her workout area, creating a semicircle that blocked other members' access while ensuring maximum visibility for whatever confrontation Tyler had planned. "Hey everyone," Tyler announced loudly, his voice carrying across the weight room as he addressed his phone camera. "We're here at Iron Core, where we believe in authentic fitness culture and supporting serious athletes who are committed to excellence." His tone carried the practiced enthusiasm of someone accustomed to performing for social media audiences, but his eyes remained fixed on Emma with unmistakable hostility. Tyler's announcement drew attention from other members who began gathering around the impromptu broadcast, their phones emerging to capture whatever drama was about to unfold. The crowd created additional pressure on Emma, who found herself surrounded by people eager to witness her humiliation, while Tyler controlled the narrative through his live stream. "Unfortunately," Tyler continued, his voice taking on a tone of manufactured concern, "we sometimes encounter individuals who don't understand the standards and culture that make our community special. People who take up space and equipment without contributing to the positive energy that defines Iron Core." His gaze shifted meaningfully toward Emma, making his target clear to both his live audience and the gathering crowd. Emma completed her current repetition and set the weight down with deliberate control, refusing to be rushed or intimidated by Tyler's theatrical display. Her military training had taught her the importance of maintaining composure under pressure, never allowing adversaries to dictate the terms of engagement or force emotional reactions that could be used against her. The crowd around them continued growing as word spread throughout the facility that Tyler was conducting one of his infamous social media interventions. These episodes had become legendary among Iron Core members, representing Tyler's method of publicly shaming individuals who failed to meet his standards for gym culture and behavior. "Emma Rodriguez," Tyler said, his voice dripping with false friendliness as he finally addressed her directly. "We need to have a conversation about your attitude and approach here at Iron Core. It's become clear that you're not integrating well with our community standards, and frankly, your presence is creating discomfort for our established members." The accusation hung in the air like a challenge, designed to force Emma into a defensive position where any response would validate Tyler's characterization of her as problematic and disruptive. His livestream audience could see only his perspective, receiving a carefully curated version of events that positioned him as a reasonable authority figure addressing a legitimate concern. Emma's response demonstrated the diplomatic skills she'd developed during military briefings and professional presentations. "I'm here to work out according to my membership agreement," she said calmly, her voice carrying clearly across the suddenly quiet weight room. "I haven't violated any posted rules or interfered with anyone else's use of the facility." Tyler's expression shifted as he realized that Emma wasn't going to provide the emotional reaction he'd expected. His social media persona depended on creating dramatic confrontations that generated engagement and reinforced his authority within the facility. Emma's composed response threatened to undermine the narrative he was constructing for his audience. "See, this is exactly the attitude problem I'm talking about," Tyler said, turning back to his phone camera with exaggerated frustration. "When someone offers constructive feedback about community standards, a mature person would listen and adapt. Instead, we get defensiveness and denial." Brad Stevens stepped forward with the kind of aggressive posturing that had served him well in real estate negotiations and social confrontations. His imposing physical presence was calculated to intimidate Emma, while demonstrating his loyalty to Tyler and commitment to the harassment campaign. "Look, lady," Brad said, his voice carrying the authority of someone accustomed to getting his way through intimidation. "We've been trying to help you understand how things work around here, but you keep showing up in your weird military surplus clothes, hogging equipment, and acting like you're better than everyone else." The accusation about military clothing struck particularly close to home for Emma, who had deliberately chosen civilian workout attire to avoid drawing attention to her service background. Brad's comment revealed either deliberate ignorance or willful distortion of facts, suggesting that the harassment campaign was based on prejudices rather than legitimate concerns about her behavior. Monica Fielding added her voice to the confrontation with the kind of passive-aggressive commentary that had become her signature contribution to the harassment campaign. "It's really about fitting in and respecting the culture that existed here long before you arrived," she said, her tone suggesting reasonable concern while delivering pointed criticism. "Some people adapt naturally to social environments, while others seem determined to create friction and drama." The implication that Emma was responsible for the drama currently unfolding demonstrated the psychological manipulation tactics that Monica had perfected through her social media marketing experience. By positioning Emma as the source of conflict, she attempted to redirect attention away from the harassment campaign and toward perceived character flaws in the victim. Emma's military experience had exposed her to various forms of psychological warfare and manipulation tactics designed to break down enemy morale and resistance. The techniques being employed by Tyler's group were sophisticated but recognizable, utilizing social pressure and public humiliation to achieve compliance without resorting to physical confrontation. The growing crowd of spectators created additional pressure as members began recording the confrontation with their phones, ensuring that whatever happened next would be preserved and shared across social media platforms. Emma understood that her response would define her reputation within the Phoenix fitness community and potentially impact her professional life if the footage reached her colleagues or patients. Tyler's live stream had attracted over 200 viewers who were commenting enthusiastically about the unfolding drama. His audience consisted primarily of fitness enthusiasts and social media followers who enjoyed watching confrontations and public-shaming episodes. Their comments encouraged increasingly aggressive behavior from Tyler and his associates. "You know what?" Tyler said, his frustration becoming more apparent as Emma refused to provide the emotional breakdown his audience expected. "I think it's time we address the real issue here. This is a premium fitness facility for serious athletes and committed community members. We're not a therapy gym for people working through personal issues or trying to prove something." The reference to therapy and personal issues carried obvious implications about Emma's military background and potential psychological trauma associated with her service. Tyler's comment revealed either knowledge of her history or deliberate stereotyping of veterans, both of which crossed lines of professional and personal respect. Emma felt a familiar tightness in her chest as memories of combat experiences and recovery challenges threatened to surface. The combination of public scrutiny, aggressive confrontation, and references to psychological trauma created conditions similar to the stress reactions she'd worked to overcome during her transition to civilian life. However, her therapeutic training and personal growth experiences provided tools for managing these responses without allowing Tyler to achieve his goal of public humiliation. Emma focused on breathing techniques and grounding exercises that helped maintain emotional stability while processing the attack on her character and service. The crowd around them had grown to include nearly 30 members, creating a theater-like atmosphere where Emma found herself cast as the antagonist in Tyler's carefully orchestrated drama. The social dynamics resembled mob behavior, with individual moral judgment suspended in favor of collective entertainment and validation seeking. Jessica Williams pushed through the crowd with obvious discomfort about the confrontation she was witnessing. Her friendship with Emma had developed slowly over the previous months, built on shared conversations about career challenges and personal growth, rather than fitness-related topics. "Tyler, this seems really unnecessary," Jessica said, her voice carrying uncertainty but genuine concern for Emma's welfare. "She's never bothered anyone or caused problems. Why are you making such a big deal about someone just trying to work out?" Tyler's response to Jessica's intervention revealed the extent of his commitment to the harassment campaign, and his willingness to expand the conflict beyond Emma, to include anyone who challenged his authority. "Jessica, I appreciate your concern, but you don't understand the full situation here. Emma has been consistently disruptive and resistant to community feedback. Sometimes difficult decisions have to be made to protect the positive environment we've built." The characterization of Emma as disruptive and resistant demonstrated Tyler's skill at manipulating narratives to serve his purposes. His ability to present harassment as community protection and bullying as difficult leadership decisions reflected sophisticated understanding of social dynamics and public relations strategies. Brad Stevens directed his attention toward Jessica with the same intimidating approach he'd used on Emma, clearly intending to discourage further intervention or support for the target of their campaign. "This doesn't concern you, Jessica, unless you want to be associated with the kind of attitude problems we're trying to address here." The threat was subtle but unmistakable, designed to isolate Emma by discouraging potential allies from risking their own social standing within the facility. Brad's approach relied on fear of social consequences to maintain silence and compliance from witnesses who might otherwise object to the harassment. Monica Fielding added her voice with characteristic passive aggressiveness, targeting Jessica's attempt to defend Emma while maintaining plausible deniability about her hostile intentions. "We all want everyone to feel welcome here, but there have to be standards and expectations for behavior. Some people just aren't a good fit for certain environments." The reference to fit and standards carried coded language about social acceptability and belonging that extended beyond gym culture into broader questions of community membership and inclusion. Monica's comments revealed the exclusionary philosophy that drove the harassment campaign while avoiding explicit statements that could be characterized as discriminatory. Emma recognized the moment as a critical juncture where her response would determine not only her own fate at Iron Corps, but also the treatment that future targets might receive from Tyler's group. Her military service had taught her about the importance of standing up to bullies and protecting those who couldn't protect themselves. The decision to remain silent would preserve her own immediate comfort, while abandoning principles of courage and integrity that had defined her military service and professional identity. Speaking up would likely escalate the confrontation and expose her to additional harassment, but it would also demonstrate the values she claimed to represent. "I served 3 tours in Afghanistan as a combat medic," Emma said quietly, her voice carrying across the suddenly silent weight room with unmistakable authority. "I've treated wounded soldiers under enemy fire and helped save lives in conditions that most people can't imagine. I don't need validation from anyone here about my fitness level, my dedication, or my right to use this facility." The revelation of Emma's military background created immediate shifts in the crowd's energy and attention. Several members exchanged glances that suggested recognition of the significance of her service, while others appeared uncomfortable with the implications of their participation in harassing a veteran. Tyler's expression revealed surprise and calculation as he processed this new information and its potential impact on his social media narrative. His livestream audience was receiving real-time updates about Emma's military service, creating complications for his characterization of her as an amateur fitness tourist seeking attention. "Military service is admirable," Tyler said carefully, his tone shifting to acknowledge the changed dynamics while maintaining his aggressive stance. "But that doesn't give anyone special privileges or excuse inappropriate behavior in civilian settings. This facility has standards that apply to everyone regardless of their background." The attempt to minimize Emma's service while maintaining his attack demonstrated Tyler's commitment to the harassment campaign, despite evidence that his target possessed qualifications and experiences that exceeded his own. His response revealed character flaws that extended beyond simple fitness snobbery into more serious territory involving respect for military service and sacrifice. Brad Stevens appeared less comfortable with the revelation of Emma's veteran status, his aggressive posture softening slightly as he processed the implications of attacking someone who had served their country in combat roles. His real estate background had taught him the importance of community relationships and public image, both of which could be damaged by perceived disrespect toward veterans. Monica Fielding maintained her passive-aggressive approach, but shifted her strategy to focus on civilian adaptation rather than military service itself. "Transition to civilian life can be challenging," she said with manufactured sympathy, "but everyone has to learn to adapt to new environments and social expectations." The comment revealed Monica's commitment to the harassment campaign regardless of Emma's service record, while demonstrating sophisticated understanding of psychological manipulation techniques designed to pathologize normal behavior and create shame around perceived inadequacies. Emma's revelation had created a moment of uncertainty among the crowd as members processed the disconnect between Tyler's characterization of her as an amateur fitness tourist and the reality of her military service and combat experience. The cognitive dissonance challenged assumptions and forced individual moral reckonings about participation in the harassment campaign. Jessica Williams seized the opportunity created by Emma's revelation to voice stronger support for her position and challenge Tyler's authority more directly. "This is completely out of line," she said, her voice carrying increased confidence as she addressed the crowd rather than just Tyler. "Emma has never done anything wrong here, and now we find out she's a veteran who served our country? This whole thing is disgusting." Jessica's intervention represented a potential turning point in the social dynamic surrounding the confrontation, providing other members with permission to question Tyler's narrative and consider alternative perspectives on Emma's character and behavior. Tyler recognized the threat that Jessica's support posed to his control over the situation and responded with increased aggression designed to reassert his authority and discourage further challenges to his leadership. "Jessica, you're entitled to your opinion, but you don't have all the facts here. Military service doesn't excuse civilian behavior problems or give people the right to disrupt community standards." The escalation continued as the confrontation approached a climax that would force all participants to choose sides and reveal their true characters under pressure. Emma's military background had changed the dynamics but hadn't resolved the fundamental conflict between Tyler's need for dominance and her right to equal treatment within the facility. The moment Tyler finished dismissing Emma's military service, something fundamental shifted in the atmosphere of Iron Core Fitness Center. The temperature seemed to drop despite the desert heat outside, and conversations throughout the facility gradually ceased as members became aware that something significant was happening in the weight room. Emma stood motionless for several heartbeats, her breathing controlled and measured, as if she were calculating distances and trajectories that only she could see. "You want to know about community standards?" Emma asked, her voice carrying a new quality that made several nearby members instinctively step backward. The tone wasn't aggressive or emotional, but it contained an authority that came from experiences none of them could imagine. "Let me show you what real standards look like." Without breaking eye contact with Tyler, Emma reached for the hem of her long-sleeved, moisture-wicking shirt and pulled it over her head in one fluid motion. The reveal happened so quickly that several people gasped before they fully processed what they were seeing. Emma's torso and arms were covered in an intricate network of surgical scars that told the story of that October morning in Kandahar Province with devastating clarity. The largest scar ran from her left shoulder blade diagonally across her back, where military surgeons had worked for 8 hours to remove shrapnel that had come within millimeters of severing her spinal cord. Smaller scars dotted her arms like a constellation, each one marking a fragment of metal that had been painstakingly extracted during the 17-hour surgical marathon that had saved her life. The silence in the weight room was absolute, as more than 40 members and staff processed what they were witnessing. Tyler's livestream audience exploded with comments as viewers tried to understand what had just happened, but Tyler himself seemed frozen, his phone still recording but his confident commentary completely absent. "This scar," Emma said, pointing to a curved mark along her ribcage, "came from a piece of our convoy's armor plating that got driven into my chest when the IED detonated. The surgeon who removed it said it missed my heart by 3 centimeters." Her voice remained steady and clinical, as if she were briefing superior officers rather than confronting civilian bullies. She turned slightly to display the full extent of the scarring across her back and shoulders, allowing the crowd to see the surgical precision that had been required to reconstruct tissue that had been shredded by high-velocity fragments. "These smaller ones are from various pieces of debris and vehicle components that became projectiles when our Humvee was destroyed." Monica Fielding's face had gone completely white as she processed the implications of what she was seeing. Her expertise in social media and image management had never prepared her for this kind of raw, authentic display of sacrifice and service. The carefully constructed narrative about Emma being a problematic member crumbled as she confronted physical evidence of experiences that dwarfed any challenges she had ever faced. Brad Stevens took an involuntary step backward, his aggressive posturing replaced by obvious discomfort, as he struggled to reconcile his assumptions about Emma with the reality of her service and sacrifice. His real estate background had taught him to read people and situations quickly, and every instinct was telling him that he had dramatically misjudged both Emma's character and the consequences of targeting her. "The best part about this particular scar," Emma continued, indicating a jagged mark along her left arm, "is that I got it while dragging my convoy commander to safety after the explosion. He was unconscious and bleeding out, so I had to move him approximately 50 meters to the extraction point, while taking sporadic sniper fire from enemy positions. The clinical description of combat actions and life-saving decisions under fire created cognitive dissonance for listeners who had never experienced anything more traumatic than equipment malfunctions or scheduling conflicts. Emma's matter-of-fact delivery made the extraordinary nature of her experiences even more powerful, demonstrating a level of competence and courage that transcended their civilian understanding. Tyler's phone continued recording, but his live-stream audience had shifted from entertainment-seeking commentary to expressions of shock and respect for what they were witnessing. The comments stream filled with military veterans sharing their own experiences, and civilians expressing amazement at the revelation of Emma's service record. 3 tours in Afghanistan, Emma said, her gaze fixed on Tyler's shocked expression. 47 medical evacuations, where I provided life-saving treatment under combat conditions. 2 Bronze Stars and a Purple Heart, for actions that your social media followers will never understand or appreciate. The mention of military decorations created murmurs throughout the crowd as members began to understand the magnitude of Emma's service and the absurdity of Tyler's characterization of her as an amateur or problematic gym member. Several people began recording with their own phones, recognizing that they were witnessing something extraordinary. Jessica Williams felt tears forming in her eyes as she processed the full scope of what Emma had endured and accomplished during her military service. Her marketing background had exposed her to many inspirational stories, but none had prepared her for this kind of authentic display of courage and sacrifice. "But you want to know the most important thing about these scars?" Emma asked, finally allowing emotion to enter her voice for the first time during the confrontation. "They represent the day I learned that surviving isn't enough. After I recovered, I had to choose whether to let trauma define me or use my experience to help others heal." The philosophical dimension of Emma's revelation elevated the confrontation beyond simple gym politics into broader questions about purpose, service, and the obligations that come with survival. Her transformation of physical trauma into vocational mission demonstrated a level of character development that challenged everyone present to examine their own responses to adversity. Emma's voice grew stronger as she continued, drawing on reserves of inner strength that had carried her through combat deployments and medical recovery. "Every day I work with veterans who are struggling to rebuild their lives after service. Some have visible injuries like mine. Others carry invisible wounds that are just as real and just as challenging." The reference to her professional work added another dimension to the revelation, demonstrating that Emma's military service had translated into continued dedication to helping others, rather than simple personal advancement or recognition seeking. Her commitment to veteran rehabilitation provided context for her disciplined approach to fitness and her resistance to Tyler's harassment. "So when you stand there with your social media followers and your amateur understanding of fitness culture," Emma said, her attention returning to Tyler with laser focus, "and you question my dedication or my right to be here, you're not just attacking me. You're attacking every veteran who has ever struggled to find their place in civilian society." The broader implications of Tyler's harassment campaign became clear as Emma connected her personal experience to the challenges faced by all veterans transitioning from military to civilian life. Her ability to articulate these connections while displaying her physical scars created a powerful combination of emotional and intellectual appeal. Tyler's livestream audience had grown to over 800 viewers as word spread across social media about the confrontation taking place at Iron Corps. The comment section filled with military veterans sharing their own stories and civilians expressing outrage at Tyler's treatment of a combat veteran. Marcus Chen pushed through the crowd with an expression of growing alarm as he processed both the confrontation taking place in his facility and the potential public relations disaster that was unfolding in real time. His business instincts recognized that Tyler's harassment of a decorated combat veteran could destroy Iron Corps' reputation and financial viability. "Emma, I had no idea," Marcus said, his voice carrying genuine remorse as he took in the extent of her scarring and processed the implications of what had been happening under his ownership. "If I had known about your service record, none of this would have happened." The gym owner's intervention represented a potential turning point in the confrontation, But Emma's response demonstrated that she wasn't interested in solutions that depended on her military status rather than basic human dignity and respect. "My service record shouldn't matter for membership in a civilian gym," she said firmly. "Every person deserves to be treated with basic respect regardless of their background." Emma's rejection of special treatment based on military service revealed character depth that impressed even her critics and demonstrated principles that extended beyond personal vindication to broader questions of justice and equality. Her response challenged everyone present to consider whether their moral standards required heroic service records or applied universally. The crowd's energy continued shifting as members processed the revelation and its implications for their own behavior and moral standing. Several people who had participated in or enabled the harassment campaign began displaying obvious signs of shame and regret as they confronted the reality of what they had supported. Tyler's confident demeanor had completely evaporated as he struggled to process the destruction of his carefully constructed narrative and the potential consequences for his reputation and career. His social media presence depended on maintaining authority and credibility within the fitness community, both of which were crumbling in real time as his audience witnessed his harassment of a decorated veteran. "I didn't know," Tyler said weakly, his voice barely audible over the murmurs and comments from the surrounding crowd. His phone continued recording, but his ability to control the narrative had been completely overwhelmed by Emma's revelation and the authentic emotional responses it generated. Emma's expression softened slightly as she recognized Tyler's shock and apparent remorse, but her voice remained firm as she addressed his explanation. "Ignorance doesn't excuse behavior," she said. "You never asked about my background or qualifications before deciding I didn't belong here. You made assumptions based on prejudices, and then acted on those assumptions to make my life difficult." The educational aspect of Emma's response demonstrated her commitment to creating learning opportunities rather than simply punishing those who had wronged her. Her approach reflected both military leadership training and therapeutic insights about behavior modification and personal growth. Lisa Parker emerged from behind the front desk, where she had been watching the confrontation unfold with growing horror as she realized her complicity in harassing a combat veteran. Her participation in the systematic campaign against Emma suddenly seemed not just unprofessional, but potentially criminal, depending on how the situation resolved. "Emma, I'm so sorry," Lisa said, her voice breaking as she struggled with the implications of her behavior and its potential consequences for her employment and reputation. "I had no idea what you had been through or what you had done for our country." The apology represented genuine remorse, but also revealed the conditional nature of respect that Emma had criticized in her response to Marcus Chen. Lisa's horror was based on discovering Emma's military service, rather than recognizing the inherent wrongness of harassment and discrimination. Emma's response to Lisa's apology demonstrated consistent principles about universal human dignity that impressed observers and provided additional evidence of her character and moral development. "Everyone deserves to be treated with respect," she said simply. "Military service doesn't make someone more worthy of basic human decency." The philosophical consistency of Emma's position throughout the confrontation created credibility that enhanced the impact of her revelation and challenged everyone present to examine their own moral standards and behavior. Her ability to maintain principles under pressure demonstrated leadership qualities that transcended military or civilian contexts. Rachel Green had arrived at Iron Corps for a follow-up interview with Tyler when she encountered the confrontation in progress. Her journalistic instincts immediately recognized the significance of what she was witnessing, and she began recording with professional equipment while taking detailed notes about the participants and their responses. The presence of a professional journalist added new dimensions to the situation as Tyler realized that his harassment campaign was being documented by someone with the ability to reach broader audiences through traditional media channels. His social media influence provided some protection within fitness community circles, but mainstream media coverage could expose him to wider accountability. Rachel's subsequent interviews with witnesses and review of social media footage would provide comprehensive documentation of the confrontation and its aftermath, creating a permanent record that would follow all participants long after the immediate drama concluded. Her professional standards required objective reporting, but her personal reaction to Emma's revelation was unmistakably positive. The crowd began dispersing slowly, as members processed what they had witnessed and considered their own roles in the harassment campaign, or their failure to intervene when they recognized inappropriate behavior. The weight room gradually returned to normal activity levels, but conversations throughout the facility focused exclusively on Emma's revelation and its implications. Emma replaced her shirt with the same deliberate control she had displayed throughout the confrontation, her expression calm but alert as she monitored the reactions around her. The decision to reveal her scars had been calculated and strategic, designed to create maximum impact while maintaining her dignity and control over the narrative. Tyler's live stream had captured the entire confrontation, creating permanent documentation that would follow him throughout his career in the fitness industry. His audience's reaction to Emma's revelation had been overwhelmingly negative toward his behavior, with many viewers expressing outrage at his treatment of a combat veteran and calling for accountability. The immediate aftermath of the revelation would determine whether the confrontation led to genuine change within Iron Corps' culture or simply created temporary disruption before returning to previous patterns. Emma's strategic approach had maximized her chances of achieving lasting transformation, but the ultimate results would depend on how others chose to respond to the wake-up call she had provided. The immediate transformation at Iron Corps Fitness Center was profound and unmistakable. Within hours of Emma's revelation, the social dynamics that had governed the facility for years underwent a complete restructuring that affected every member and staff person. Tyler's influence evaporated like morning dew in the Arizona desert, leaving behind a vacuum that Emma had no interest in filling but one that demanded new leadership and direction. Marcus Chen spent the weekend conducting emergency meetings with his legal team and public relations consultants, as social media coverage of the confrontation spread beyond Phoenix into national fitness and veteran advocacy communities. The video of Emma revealing her scars while describing her combat service had been shared thousands of times, generating overwhelmingly negative commentary about Tyler's behavior and Iron Corps' culture. By Monday morning, Marcus had made the difficult decision to terminate Tyler's employment immediately, citing violation of workplace harassment policies and damage to the facility's reputation. The decision was financially motivated, but represented genuine recognition that Tyler's behavior had created liability issues that threatened the business's survival. Tyler's departure from Iron Corps was swift and unceremonious. His personal training clients were reassigned to other staff members, his social media accounts were disconnected from the facility's marketing efforts, and his promotional materials were removed from all company platforms. The erasure of his presence was so complete that newer members might never have known he had worked there. The aftermath proved more challenging for Tyler than the initial confrontation had been. His social media followers began abandoning his accounts in significant numbers as the story of his harassment of a combat veteran spread throughout fitness communities. Sponsorship deals were canceled, collaboration opportunities disappeared, and his reputation within the industry suffered damage that would take years to repair, if recovery was even possible. Several former clients publicly distanced themselves from Tyler's training methods and philosophy, sharing their own observations about his treatment of members who didn't fit his preferred demographic. The revelations created a cascade effect that exposed patterns of discrimination and harassment that extended far beyond Emma's experience. Brad Stevens and Monica Fielding faced their own reckonings as their participation in the harassment campaign became public knowledge through social media coverage and witness interviews. Brad's real estate business suffered as potential clients questioned his character and judgment based on his treatment of a military veteran. Monica's employer conducted an internal review of her social media activities and ultimately decided that her behavior reflected poorly on their brand values. The social consequences for Tyler's inner circle demonstrated the broader impact of their choices and provided accountability that extended beyond the gym's physical boundaries. Their experience served as a warning to others about the potential costs of participating in harassment campaigns and discrimination. Emma's response to Tyler's termination revealed the depth of her character and commitment to justice over revenge. When Marcus Chen informed her of the decision and offered her a position as head trainer, she declined both the celebration and the opportunity for advancement that his departure created. This was never about getting Tyler fired or taking his position, Emma explained to Marcus during their private meeting in his office overlooking the gym floor. It was about establishing that everyone deserves to be treated with dignity and respect regardless of their background or appearance. Her rejection of the head trainer position surprised Marcus, who had expected Emma to leverage her newfound status within the facility for personal advancement. Her response demonstrated principles that transcended personal benefit and focused on systemic change rather than individual vindication. Instead of accepting the promotion, Emma proposed establishing a comprehensive anti-harassment policy and training program for all staff and members. Her recommendations drew on her military leadership experience and therapeutic background to create systems that would prevent future incidents while promoting inclusive community culture. The policy implementation required significant changes to Iron Corps' operations and culture, but Marcus recognized that these investments were necessary for rebuilding the facility's reputation and preventing future liability issues. Emma's proposals were practical and achievable, while addressing the root causes of the problems that had led to Tyler's behavior. Jessica Williams emerged as an unexpected leader during the transition period, using her marketing background to help rebuild Iron Corps' image while supporting Emma's policy initiatives. Her willingness to speak up during the confrontation had demonstrated courage that earned respect from other members, and positioned her as a voice for positive change. Jessica's friendship with Emma deepened as they worked together on cultural transformation efforts that extended beyond policy changes, to include community-building activities and support systems for members who had previously felt excluded or marginalized. Their collaboration demonstrated the potential for meaningful relationships across different backgrounds and experiences. The new training staff hired to replace Tyler and his associates were selected based on qualifications and commitment to inclusive fitness culture rather than social media influence or promotional value. Emma participated in the interview process as an advisor, helping identify candidates who possessed both technical competence and interpersonal skills necessary for creating welcoming environments. The hiring process revealed Emma's leadership abilities and her commitment to building systems rather than seeking personal recognition. Her involvement in selecting new staff demonstrated trust from Marcus while providing her with opportunities to shape the facility's future direction according to her values and principles. Rachel Green's feature article about the confrontation and its aftermath appeared in Phoenix magazine 3 weeks later, providing comprehensive coverage that included interviews with all major participants and analysis of broader issues related to veteran transition challenges and workplace harassment. The article generated significant discussion about community responsibility and inclusive culture. The national attention brought by Rachel's article created opportunities for Emma that she approached with characteristic thoughtfulness and strategic consideration. Interview requests from veteran advocacy organizations and fitness industry publications provided platforms for discussing important issues while maintaining focus on systemic change rather than personal celebrity. Emma's media appearances emphasized themes of universal dignity, inclusive community building, and the importance of supporting veteran transition efforts. Her message resonated with audiences because it connected personal experience to broader social responsibilities while avoiding blame or victimization narratives. The speaking opportunities that emerged from the media coverage allowed Emma to expand her impact beyond Iron Corps and Phoenix into national conversations about veteran affairs and community support systems. Her authentic approach and practical recommendations provided valuable perspectives that influenced policy discussions and program development. 6 months after the confrontation, Iron Corps Fitness Center had been completely transformed into a model facility that attracted members specifically because of its inclusive culture and supportive environment. The changes initiated by Emma's revelation had created a sustainable business model that proved more profitable than Tyler's exclusionary approach. The facility's reputation for welcoming diversity and supporting member success attracted positive media attention and word-of-mouth recommendations that generated steady membership growth. Emma's influence on the culture created value that extended far beyond the immediate resolution of harassment issues. New members frequently cited Iron Corps' inclusive environment as their primary reason for choosing the facility over competitors. The emphasis on personal growth and community support rather than social media promotion appealed to people seeking authentic fitness experiences rather than performance opportunities. Emma's work with veteran rehabilitation at Desert Valley Physical Rehabilitation Clinic expanded as her public profile grew, and her expertise became more widely recognized. Dr. Sarah Martinez supported Emma's increased visibility and speaking engagements, recognizing that her advocacy work enhanced the clinic's mission and reputation. The integration of Emma's military experience with her therapeutic training created unique qualifications that benefited both her veteran patients and civilian clients seeking practical approaches to fitness and recovery. Her holistic perspective addressed physical, psychological, and social aspects of health and wellness. Emma's patient load increasingly included referrals from other medical professionals who recognized her specialized expertise in treating service members and first responders. Her reputation for understanding trauma recovery and functional fitness made her a sought-after resource within Phoenix's medical community. The personal growth that Emma experienced during and after the confrontation reflected her commitment to continuous development and service to others. The decision to reveal her scars and military service had required vulnerability that strengthened her confidence and expanded her sense of purpose. Emma's relationship with her own military experience evolved as she integrated her service identity with her civilian professional roles. The confrontation had forced her to claim her veteran status publicly, leading to increased comfort with sharing her background when appropriate and beneficial. The therapeutic value of Emma's advocacy work provided unexpected benefits for her own recovery and transition process. Helping others understand and navigate veteran challenges reinforced her sense of purpose, while demonstrating the continued relevance of her military experience. Tyler Mitchell's journey after leaving Iron Corps proved more complicated and challenging than his former colleagues had anticipated. The public nature of his fall from grace within the fitness community required extensive self-reflection and behavior modification that tested his character and commitment to personal growth. The loss of income, professional reputation, and social status forced Tyler to confront the attitudes and behaviors that had led to his downfall. The process was humbling and difficult, requiring acknowledgement of harm caused to others and genuine commitment to change rather than superficial apology or image management. Tyler's rehabilitation efforts included counseling sessions focused on understanding the psychology of bullying and harassment, as well as volunteer work with veteran support organizations that provided direct exposure to the population he had mistreated. The experiences were initially uncomfortable but ultimately educational. The possibility of redemption for Tyler remained uncertain and dependent on his willingness to demonstrate sustained change over time, rather than temporary remorse motivated by consequences. Emma's principles about universal human dignity suggested that everyone deserved opportunities for growth and improvement, but such opportunities require genuine effort and accountability. Emma's decision to maintain her membership at Iron Corps, while declining special treatment or recognition, reflected her commitment to normalizing veteran presence in civilian spaces. Her consistent attendance and participation in facility activities demonstrated that her revelation had been about principle rather than attention-seeking. The routine nature of Emma's continued membership served important symbolic purposes for other veterans who visited or joined the facility. Her visible presence and comfortable integration into the community provided models for successful transition while challenging stereotypes about veteran capabilities and needs. Emma's workout routine remained focused on functional fitness and personal goals rather than social media documentation or competitive displays. Her approach continued emphasizing practical applications and long-term health rather than aesthetic achievements or performance validation. The consistency of Emma's behavior before and after the confrontation demonstrated authenticity that earned respect from members and staff, while reinforcing the principles she had articulated during the crisis. Her character remained constant regardless of recognition or status changes. 1 year after the confrontation, Emma was invited to speak at the annual Veterans Day ceremony held at the Arizona State Capitol. Her remarks focused on the importance of community support for veteran transition and the responsibilities that come with freedom and opportunity in civilian society. The speech provided Emma with a platform for addressing state-level policymakers and veteran advocacy leaders about systemic issues that affected service member reintegration. Her recommendations drew on personal experience and professional expertise while avoiding partisan political positions. The positive response to Emma's Veterans Day address led to additional speaking opportunities and advisory positions, with organizations working on veteran affairs. Her practical perspective and authentic communication style provided valuable contributions to policy discussions and program development efforts. Emma's growing influence in veteran advocacy circles created opportunities for systemic change that extended far beyond the initial confrontation at Iron Corps. Her ability to connect personal experience with broader social issues provided compelling arguments for improved support systems and inclusive community practices. The legacy of Emma's revelation and its aftermath continued expanding as other veterans shared their own stories of discrimination and successful advocacy. Her example provided a model for standing up to harassment while maintaining dignity and focusing on constructive change, rather than revenge or victimization. The transformation of Iron Core Fitness Center from an exclusionary environment to an inclusive community demonstrated the potential for positive change when individuals demonstrate courage and commitment to justice. Emma's strategic approach had created lasting improvements that benefited countless people beyond her immediate situation. The broader impact of Emma's story reached audiences throughout the United States as media coverage and personal accounts spread through social networks and professional organizations. Her message about universal dignity and community responsibility resonated with people facing various forms of discrimination and exclusion. The principles Emma had demonstrated during the confrontation and its aftermath provided frameworks for addressing similar situations in other contexts and communities. Her emphasis on systemic change, rather than individual punishment, offered practical approaches to creating lasting improvements in organizational culture and social dynamics. As Emma reflected on the year that had passed since that sweltering Thursday afternoon when she decided to reveal her scars, she felt grateful for the opportunities that had emerged from such a difficult experience. The confrontation had been painful and challenging, but it had also created possibilities for service and impact that exceeded her expectations. The scars that had once represented private trauma had become symbols of shared strength and community responsibility. Emma's decision to make them visible had transformed not only her own life but also the lives of countless others who had been inspired by her courage and commitment to justice. The continuing evolution of Emma's story demonstrated that single moments of courage could create ripple effects that lasted far longer and reached much further than initially anticipated. Her choice to stand up for principle rather than accept mistreatment had generated positive changes that would benefit future generations of veterans and civilians alike. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out.